Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-tool power tool combo kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
This is Cashing Out on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is Cashing Out right here on VSiN, the sports betting network. We've got 3 tremendous hours coming up for you as we're going to be looking at a little bit of everything. We've got all 30 teams in Major League Baseball that are going to be in action on Sunday. We've got things heating up in the NBA and the NHL playoffs, and we just had an NBA playoff game go final, so we're certainly going to be diving in on that and so much more. We've got a quartet of great guests that are going to be joining me. In 15 minutes, we're going to be going into the NBA front as Jim Turvey, he does great work over at Roto Grinders. He's going to be joining me, and I have to talk about the fact that we saw a 143 spot from the Minnesota Timberwolves as they completely get the job done there, and we're going to be diving in, see if they can even it up 2-2 because, as we all know, the series does not start until the home team loses, and home team did not lose here tonight, so we'll be diving in on that. And then obviously I have to talk about the fact that the Indiana Pacers have a stranglehold currently on this series against the New York Knicks, so we'll be diving in on that front. Going to be talking a lot more NHL playoffs in hour number 2 as Jonathan Davis, he does great work here at the network. He's one of our main NHL handicappers. Along with that, he is the host of the Ice Cap on SiriusXM. He's going to be joining me. I have to talk about the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes just seemingly can't win an Eastern Conference final game, and have to take a look at what we're going to be getting out west in that Oilers versus Dallas Stars series. So we're going to be chatting with that about him, or we will be chatting with him about that if I want to get things all rearranged with that and so much more. And then Nick Giffen, he does tremendous work over at Action Network. We're going to be diving in on a little bit of motorsports with him in about an hour and 45 minutes. Things starting to heat up with regards to NASCAR, so always great to be able to get him aboard. And then hour number 3, Dan Alexander, he does great work over at BetUS. He's going to be joining me, and we're going to have some fun chatting with him because we've got a little bit of everything that's happening this weekend. And I know that our producer Hunton, who does such a tremendous job on so many different fronts, he's got a little bit of a background in Premier Lacrosse, and we're going to be talking some lacrosse. We've got ourselves the NCAA Men's Championship. Personally, I've never bet lacrosse before, but it's always been a sport that I've loved to watch, like when it's on casually. Like I know that Johns Hopkins is a really good school out there with regards to lacrosse. You get like these Patriot League schools, you get a bunch of these ACC schools. They're actually really good out there on the East Coast, so I'm very excited to dive in and just are you able to bet lacrosse, because I'm down for anything. As I always like to say on these shows, money is money. It does not matter if you're betting on the NBA Finals, if you're betting on the Stanley Cup Final, the Super Bowl, or if you're betting on some sort of lacrosse game. If you're able to make money, that's what we're looking for. And honestly, I think it's a badge of honor when you do dive in on those smaller games, because for those that know myself, I dive in on a lot of college basketball, and some of my most profitable conferences are things like the SWAC, the MEAC, and fading Chicago State. So we always have a lot of fun there, but let's take a look at what just transpired out there in the great state of Minnesota as the Timberwolves. Well, this was a romping over the Thunder. A thunderous win for the Timberwolves, if you want to say that. 143-101. If you had on your bingo card getting 15 points out of Terrence Shannon Jr., getting off the bench A.J. Mitchell to be able to score double figures as well, well, congratulations. That's exactly what happened here. The OKC Thunder, for them, the game was close, and then it started. You had opening tip, and from there, it was all Minnesota Timberwolves. I just so recall in the first quarter seeing the score at 34-14, and that's what you'd expect from Chicago State. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The Minnesota Timberwolves were all sorts of lubed up and juiced up to be coming back home. Anthony Edwards was able to score 30 points. You had Julius Randle just completely go off in this game. And for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they had 4 different guys off the bench score double figures. Part of that was because you had Blowout City in this game, because on my bingo card, I also did not have them giving Jalen Clark 9 minutes in this game as well. But there we go, and I think that it's very important that you take a look at what we got here in this game and you don't overreact. That's the biggest thing that you want to be doing, and We are going to be getting openers for this game number 4 within the next few minutes, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what we get, because there's going to be some people that are going to be wanting to bank on the OKC Thunder and thinking that this is going to be a good bounce-back spot. Others thinking that this might be a sign of things to come. And as a matter of fact, we are getting the openers right now. The OKC Thunder, who close as 3-point favorites in this game. Now, the opener was 4. The opening number was 4, closes at 3. We are back to a 4-point line. Total right where it was when it closed. 216.5, 217, so very similar to game number 3. And right now, it's just, how do you feel about this? What is the mindset of the OKC Thunder? Because I personally am a believer typically in that you actually would rather get blown out rather than lose some heartbreaking loss. Like, I would rather be the OKC Thunder here after just getting destroyed, knowing that you just had a garbage game and that it counts as one loss. Like, the scoring differential in the series all of a sudden swings in favor of the Minnesota Timberwolves, even though they've only won one game. If you look at the combined points in the first 3 games, the Minnesota Timberwolves have actually a positive point differential, but you've got obviously the 2-1 lead for the OKC Thunder because they got the job done in both game number 1 and game number 2, and this was just a game where nothing went down for them in the first half. This is a game where everything went down for the Minnesota Timberwolves. You can live with that a little bit more than, the New York Knicks losing game number 1 because he completely threw that game in the toilet bowl. And I think that that's something to be very mindful of. Like, if I were to bet this right now, and I typically go a lot more with regards to live betting in terms of the NBA playoff games, and truth be told, had absolutely nothing that I was able to live bet here in the Thunder versus OKC Thunder game. And thank goodness, because I would have probably been like, oh, there's no way that the OKC Thunder can continue to play this bad. And they just continue to play that bad. So I'm glad I did not get involved because I would have lost money. But you know what? If I were to bet this right now, I would be taking a little bit more of a look at the over, because I do think that with the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're starting to figure out a little bit more. And it does feel like this OKC Thunder offense, they're going to have a better game number 4. Like, I recognize that they scored 101 points here tonight. That came in garbage time. They were just absolutely terrible in the first half. They could not get anything to go to save their lives. This was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander giving you his worst performance that we have seen in quite some time. I would expect a little bit of positivity there. So that's why we're taking a look at right now. We shall see what we actually get in terms of that, as I believe I'm doing the Labor Day show. Well, this is going to be, or the Memorial Day show, I should say. I'm getting my holidays confused. I'll be doing the Memorial Day show when that game is on the air, so we'll try to spot what we're able to find there, as this is Cashing Out right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Greg Hughes Peterson holding it down tonight. Yep, a 143, a 101. Just a complete and utter butt kicking out there in Minnesota, and going to be interesting to see what we get in terms of that Knicks versus Indiana Pacers game. We'll be talking about that with Jim Turvey here in about a little bit less than 10 or so minutes. We do have to address the fact that we've got some great baseball games that are going down, as well as right now we've got a few games that are live. You've got the Phillies and the Sacramento A's. I wanted to call them the Oakland A's. Still a little bit of habit there. Currently at 2-2. That is in the top of the 3rd inning, and these Sacramento games, they just all seem to be going over right now, as I know that Scott Seidenberg was talking about it prior to myself coming on. Always does a great job with Live Bet Saturday, but man, it just feels like these pitchers out there, they are unable to locate right now, and it's been rather rambunctious, to say the least, out there in Sacramento. You've got the thin air, and you've got a lot that is going on. As for the Phillies, they're actually able to get out of a little bit of jam there. Just got a double play. So Christopher Sanchez, after it looked like things were going to be very much on the fritz for him, he's actually been able to stabilize a little bit. He's utilized quite a few pitches through 3 innings, but so far so good there. And then we've got out there in Los Angeles, the Angels, who are on an 8-game win streak, which I can't believe that those words came out of my mouth, because prior to this 8-game win streak, they looked terrible. They looked left for dead. They looked just absolutely like a team that was, going nowhere fast. Currently, they're down 1-0 against the Miami Marlins, with Cal Quantrill actually giving you good performances. In his last game, he actually pitched an immaculate inning. Like, that is immaculate. The fact that you got that out of Cal Quantrill shows that anything is possible in this game of baseball, other than the Rockies winning games consistently. That's just not possible. But you know what? It's currently 1-0, top of the 4th inning there in Los Angeles, with them currently trailing. But that leads to something very interesting that I think is worth addressing right about now in terms of this landscape of Major League Baseball. Because I mentioned with the LA Angels, they were down and out. It looked like they've been able to make this run if you're out there in the American League and you don't have a record that's similar to the Colorado Rockies, and you're not the Chicago White Sox, but it's a very open league right now. Like, the balance of power right now in Major League Baseball is all in the National League. You take a look at those NL West teams. Like, right now, the Arizona Diamondbacks are a little bit down, but I think that they're going to be able to make a little bit of a run. And then you've got three teams out there in terms of the San Francisco Giants, the San Diego Padres, and the LA Dodgers that have all been very impressive. And I think that we are right now writing the demise of the Dodgers a little bit too soon. I recognize that it hasn't necessarily been what you'd expect out of them. They still have a plus 61 run differential. They're at 32-20. Like, they're on pace to be able to get pretty close to 100 wins right now. They're still having themselves a solid year. That's just what happens when you've got a big giant payroll. That's what happens when there's a lot of money invested in there. But I mean, you take a look at the American League right now. The New York Yankees are 31-20. They've been rock solid with regards to their offense. They are currently leading the American League in terms of runs per game. If you ask me, right now the team that's playing the best baseball, though, is the Detroit Tigers. They've had the best bullpen rate in all of baseball since the All-Star break in 2024. Their offense is actually very much revamped because Javi Baez, who had been useless for years, is no longer useless. You pick up Gleyber Torres. You've got Spencer Torkelson. All these guys are just able to give you the deep ball. I love Kerry Carpenter. I mean, these guys have really been able to come into their own. They've got a nice home field advantage, but I mean, for the LA Angels, based on their 8-game win streak that they're on right now. Now they are 500 with a negative 43 run differential, which I find to be absolutely hilarious, by the way. But I mean, that's baseball year in 2025, kids. But they're 3.5 games out in the AL West. An AL West where I like what I've seen out of the Seattle Mariners. I don't know if I'm going to be willing to buy in on them hardcore, because for the Seattle Mariners, I just want to see a little bit more from this offense. It's been much better this year. I love the fact that Jorge Polanco, after he was absolutely terrible last season, he's been able to do much better this year, but that's a team that I think is worth watching. You've obviously got the Houston Astros, who they're not the Astros of old, but they've been able to get 2 games above 500. Lots of intrigue there. It's a very wide open American League, and in terms of the NBA playoffs, things are all of a sudden a little bit more open with regards to Western Conference Finals. We'll talk about that. We'll look forward to game number 3 of Pacers versus Knicks next, as we're going to be joined by Jim Turvey of Roto Grinders right here on Cash It Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Great to be joined by this man, as we've got Jim Turvey aboard. He does a tremendous job over at Roto Grinders, taking a look at this great game of basketball, both WNBA and NBA. And Jim, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Always good to chat hoop here.
Always great to have you aboard. And Jim, first things first, we just saw an absolute beatdown out there in the great state of Minnesota. The Thunder, well, they got thunderstruck. They lose by a count of 143-101. And want to get your thoughts as to, for one, what you all saw in game number 3, and 2, if we might see a bounce back from the Thunder in game number 4 after this. I think we could both agree, pretty much the worst game that they could have possibly played.
Yeah, that was, I think you and I were chatting real brief before we hopped on, talking about, neither of us were surprised that Minnesota, showed up the first home game of the series and really came out to a strong start. But I mean, it just escalated from there. They never even bounced back. On the flip side, if you're OKC, you got to rest your starters, basically all of the fourth and even part of the third there. So they should be fresh for that game 4. But my whole thing all postseason, all season, is I have thought the market is too high on OKC and Boston. And I kind of got into a fever pitch when OKC went up with those first 2 games. A lot of people saying, like, I just don't see a pass for Minnesota. This is going to be over in 4 or 5. No, it could still be over in 5. OKC is a very good team. I still think I think the market is overrating them all year. I think we saw it with Boston. Now injuries caught up with them as well. But I think that the talent in the league is just flatter than the market is accounting for. It seems like the market's kind of treating 2025 as if it's 2014, where there's, two dominant teams that are head and shoulders above the rest of the league, where I think this is a very flat town league. I think there's a lot of really good teams. I think Chris Finch is one of the best coaches left in the playoffs right now. There's a couple of good coaches. I think Rick Carlisle is a very good coach, and Dagnall has shown himself to be a solid coach as well. But I don't think Minnesota's out of this. And, I think this Game 4 is really a pivot point here. If we get to see, if OKC bounces back and wins, it is pretty hard to see a path for Minnesota to take two of the final three, or all three, with two of those being in OKC. But if Minnesota wins, I very much think they're live for the series. OKC's home court has been great. They've been great there all postseason. But Minnesota, I do think that there's a chance that they have the best player in the series. Shea had a rough night tonight. And Ant, when he is going in the postseason, has about as strong a record as anyone. So I don't think the series is over. This Game 4, I do think, if you're looking to parlay a future, I think the winner of Game 4 very well may win the series.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I think that's a good way of looking about it. And right now with the OKC Thunder opening up as 4-point favorites in that game number 4. So something very much to watch, and something else very much to watch. How about if we do dive in on the Knicks versus Indiana Pacers? Because right now for the Knicks, they drop both games at home, and this is desperation mode in game number 3. They do find themselves as a slight underdog going into game number 3 against the Indiana Pacers. Right now that spread is 2, total right around about 223.5. How do you gauge this game number 3 with a Knicks team that, it looked like they should win game number 1, but let's call it what it is. The breaks did not go their way, to say the least. They squander that game away. Game number 2, the Pacers are able to take control, and right now for Indiana, if they take game number 3, this thing is just over.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely a must-win. I kind of felt that game 2 was semi a must-win for the Knicks. Now, with all the, we just saw a series tonight where, it looked like one team couldn't possibly lose. People couldn't fathom a way to Minnesota winning, and then Minnesota won. To me, I do think that Indiana's the better team. Coming into the series, I leaned towards the Pacers, and part of it was the coaching. I think there's a pretty big gap in terms of the coaching in this series. I think Rick Carlisle, if you flip these coaches, I think the Knicks would be ahead 2-0 right now. I think Carlisle's kind of coaching circles around Tibbs, and in a series where talent-wise the two teams seem pretty close, we're going to get a series of coin flip games, and the Pacers, when you have the better coach, that's pretty nice. Now, the Knicks have Jalen Brunson and a bunch of, players who do very well in the clutch. So I don't think they're out of it. I was hoping to get a little bit of a longer number if I wanted to be on the Knicks side. I think there's like a plus 450-ish type series number out there. I would do a game to game if you do want to be on the Knicks side. I personally think the Pacers still are going to find their way through in the end, but obviously there's not a whole lot of value now on that. You'd want to get in on that before the series. That being said, I could very well see a path to the Knicks winning this game 3. We can talk through a specific, a couple player prop bets I like here, but it is a backs against the wall spot. And in this postseason, Knicks have been just as good, if not better, on the road. The Pacers have been really good on the road and, solid at home. But the home thing in the playoffs seems to matter much less, than it has in the past. So I would not be shocked with the Knicks going in and winning game 3 there. And then if you do that, then it guarantees you at least a chance to get home for that game 5, and then you really flip it, and then the momentum's on your side. So I think that this will be a really close game again. And I think that if the Knicks want to pull it through, they got to have they got to rely on their closer Jalen Brunson to kind of top the Halliburton plus Carlisle thing, which has been very beneficial for the Pacers all postseason.
No question about it, as Jim Turvey, who does such great work over at Roto Grinders, joining me right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And if you're looking to go all in, you want to do so with Circa, because right now you're able to get a 2-night stay for $400. That includes all those resorts fees. And trust me, out here in lovely Las Vegas, they'd like to get you with those. But on top of that, get a $100 dining credit, $100 beverage credit, and a stadium swim day bet. Absolutely tremendous deal. I have my parents out there in the great state of Wisconsin. I am imploring them to come visit me and take Circa up on this wonderful offer. It's limited time. You get it all the way through the summer, so May 26th through September 4th, you're able to sign up for this over at circalasvegas.com. And what I do want to sign up for as well, Jim, you were saying that you had a few player props that you were looking at in terms of Knicks versus Pacers. Where are you looking in terms of game number 3 on the prop front?
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple props. One is a very square-sounding prop that has been very beneficial all postseason. Jalen Brunson points. In these games, these big games, Brunson just kind of puts the offense, I should say, at least on his back. Defensively, he leaves a little bit to be desired at times. But he had 43 in game 1, 36 in game 2. There's not a whole lot this Pacers squad right now can do to stop him. They've been putting Neesmith on him. That hasn't really slowed him down. Nembhard he's never really had much of a problem with Nembhard in general. He's just a little bit too slight of a player for a very good player. Nembhard, very good defender, but Brunson's not a very good matchup for him. So I like him to go over this prop here. If you look at basically outside of the Boston series, where Boston is the team that is built to limit his points with Jrue Holiday and Derek White there. So against the Pistons, he cleared this in game 1, game 2, game 4, and game 6. Especially, with this Pacers series, he's really been going off, and the field goal attempts have been as high as we've seen all postseason. So I like Brunson to go over his 31.5-point prop, even though it seems pretty high. He's been doing it consistently. And then the other one, a little bit more niche. I'll go OG Anunoby over 1.5 steals. Gave this out before game 1. He cleared it. Game 2, he cleared it as well. I didn't give it out, but I'm going to roll it back in game 3 here. He's been spending a lot of time on Pascal Siakam, whose turnovers aren't that high, but he is a turnover-prone player, especially, we all kind of, can picture Pascal Siakam with that high dribble. He gets away with it often, and he's having to give himself a great series in general. That's a really nice matchup for OG to be able to collect a couple steals on ball, and then we're seeing he's getting it done even, off ball this series as well. We're potentially seeing Mitchell Robinson move into the starting lineup as well, so maybe matchups mix around a little bit, but that's going to allow OG to cheat even more off the ball with knowing that Mitch Robinson has his back, one of the best rim protectors in the league. So I think there's a couple paths to OG hitting the over on his steals prop here. So I'll be looking at OG Anunoby over 1.5 steals. I think there's some you can get plus money out there right now, so I like that player prop as well.
Love the angle, love the bet, Jim. And what else I love is that you do a little WNBA as well. We've got ourselves a quartet of games on Sunday, and I know one of the main ones we are taking a look at is the Chicago Sky and the Los Angeles Sparks, with the Sparks right now 4-point favorite, totals between 160 and 161. What are you taking a look at on this game? Because I'm sure that all eyes are going to be on the star power in on both sides in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got Kelsey Plum on the Sparks, you got Angel Reese on the Sky. It has been a nightmare start for the Sky. They lost by 30. I'm trying to do quick math here. I think 35 in the opener to the Fever, then lost by 25 second game to the Liberty. I don't think this Chicago Sky team is very good. Those are two very good opponents. We saw the Fever and Liberty play today in a game that, to my eyes, looked like a potential finals preview. Those are two of the best teams in the league right there. That being said, and the Sparks aren't quite at that level. The Sparks actually started off 1-3. I think they're better than their record suggests. They did lose to the Valkyries last night. But to me, that was a little bit of a fluky game. I think the Sparks team is a strong team overall. Kelsey Plum certainly better than anyone the Chicago Sky has to offer. The thing that's really worrying to me about Chicago, the offense I knew was going to be a little bit rough. That they lost their best player, their offensive force last year from Kenny Carter. They lost her in the offseason. The defense is what's looked really bad. They gave up 93 to Indiana. They gave up 99 to Liberty. This Sparks team, especially Kelsey Plum, I don't have her player prop out just yet, but I'd be looking at a Kelsey Plum like escalator. Could do 25 plus. She's getting really high usage, especially with Rakia Jackson still out. I think this Sparks team should be favored by more than, it's a home game for them. They're -4, so that's implying, 1.5 point gap between the Sparks and the Sky. I think the Sky are much lower tier team than the Sparks. So I'm going to go with Los Angeles over Chicago covering the spread there, -4 at home.
I love it. Jim, always great stuff, my friend. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, great chatting.
Always good to be able to have Jim aboard, and we go from the hardwood to the diamond. Let's take a look at some baseball coming up next right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. It was great to be joined by Jim Turvey, who does great work over at Roto Grinders. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of basketball. Does a great job on both the WNBA and the NBA side of things. So big thanks to him for joining me in the last segment. And right now, the only thing that we've got live is a pair of baseball games. You've got a 1-1 score out there in Los Angeles between the Angels and the Miami Marlins. And Christopher Sanchez has been able to work his way through a few innings for the Philadelphia Phillies, who they're currently in the lead 3-2 6-2. That is in the 5th inning out there in Sacramento. And do have to point this out because I mentioned those are really the lone 2 games that are live. We saw this a little bit earlier in the night. Have yet to address the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes have now lost 15 straight Eastern Conference Finals games. The last time they won an Eastern Conference Final game, I think is when they won the Stanley Cup like 2 decades ago, because this spans all the way back to 2009. 6-2. Not even close against the Florida Panthers. I know our good friend Scott Seidenberg, who does great work over on Live Bet Saturday, he was all over this one, being able to take a look at the puck line as you've got right around about 2/3 of these games in the NHL playoffs being decided by multiple goals. So if you're looking to bet these games, that's certainly something that you want to be diving in on. And I will be diving in on the Stars versus Edmonton Oilers game in about 30 minutes. We're going to be joined by our good friend Jonathan Davis, who does great work here at the network, but needs to be mentioned, man. For the Carolina Hurricanes, they're down now 3-0 in the series, and that series looks as good as over. But what is very, very much getting all started up is a great Sunday in baseball. We've got all 30 teams in action, and we've got ourselves a lot of fun. I've got my write-ups that I filed in. Those are going to be up momentarily on the website over on vsin.com. Coming off a nice 5-1 day. Needed one because your boy was struggling a little bit the last few days. So, you know what? We are back online, and this is a game that I'm very much looking at, and I'm going to be looking at the total here. We're going to get things started with an early game. 9:51, 9:52 on the card, so we start at the top of it. Giants on the road against the Washington Nationals. Old Mike Soroka is on the bump for the Nats, and Robbie Ray says hip hip hooray to another start. Right now this total is 8, and with the Giants, you're going to be getting them right around -160, -165, and getting as high as a +150 on the Washington Nationals. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Giants, you're going to be able to get a very small plus money price. You're going to be getting right around about +105 or so, and I do think that now we're starting to shoot up a little bit higher than what I'd like. I set the Giants at about a -147 on the road just because maybe it's just me. Even though Robbie Ray has had a nice start to the year, I always have trust issues with him. You never know when you're going to get good Robbie Ray or bad Robbie Ray. And bad Robbie Ray is like beating 3 guys. He's going all over the place, throwing 15 wild pitches. You just don't know what you're going to get out of him. And he has still been giving up the walks this year. 4.3 walks per 9 innings. The strikeout stuff is a little bit down for his career. 9.7 strikeouts per 9 has been amazing at being able to keep the ball in the yard. So credit where it is due. And Mike Soroka, I believe, is a little bit better than what his ERA would indicate, rocking a nice 5.95 ERA. He's been giving up about 1.8 homers per 9 innings, but ever since he left Atlanta and dealt with injuries for many, many years, strikeout stuff has actually been up. He's up to north of 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, the trepidation that you've got with Washington Nationals, this bullpen, and they've been a little bit better recently, but I mean, that's not really saying a lot because they are currently rocking north of a 6 ERA. You've been able to have Kyle Finnegan, Jackson Rutledge be able to do a relatively solid job for you. And Cole Henry starting to come along for the ride as well. Now, what the Giants have going for them, they have been a very, very good bullpen. This is actually number 1 in all the big leagues. You've got the guys like Randy Rodriguez, Tyler Rogers. All these guys have been very rock solid for them, but I do think that for the Washington Nationals, they're starting to come into their own a little bit as a lineup. Now, you're going to need to get a bit more out of Josh Bell along Dylan Cruz. Both of these guys hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. That's rather unacceptable, but James Wood, CJ Abrams, these young guys, they are really 5-tool players, especially Wood. 13 home runs. He's supplying about a 380 on base. You've been able to get good production out of CJ Abrams. Keeper Weeds doesn't necessarily hit for a lot of power, but he does a nice job of just getting on base, moving the line. Guy that I think is really underrated is Alex Call. Has been able to give you north of 385 on base. Doesn't necessarily play every day, but he and Ahmed Rosario, they do a nice job just finding a way on. And then on the flip side for the San Francisco Giants, this team's offensive just overall metrics and ratings are just very much, shall we say, diminished by the fact that they play in San Francisco, one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball. You've been able to get quite a bit out of Eloy Ramos. He's been able to supply 9 home runs. He's hitting north of a 280 now. I mean, it's been a case where Willy Adames has just been completely useless for the team thus far this season. They signed him to all that money, and he has yet to live up to it. But Matt Chapman, he's been able to give you a relatively good on base, even though the batting average isn't necessarily amazing. You've got the likes of Mike Yastrzemski, who's able to give you a 360 on base. Jungle Lee has been rock solid this season. So I do think that this total is one where you're able to take a look at an over on. I did set my total closer to a 9 in this one. Like we were seeing openers of an 8.5 go out all the way down to an 8. I absolutely love it here because I do think that Robbie Ray is going to be all over the place. Mike Soroka in that bullpen, not necessarily the most trustworthy, but being able to get plus 150 like I'm seeing right now, I'm going to be able to take a shot on the Nationals on the money line, and I do like this total over. What else I like is that over at VSiN, you're able to save a lot of money if you want to become a pro subscriber. Typically, we charge about $20 a month, so that'd be $240 a year. We're going to trim $41 off that annual price down to $199, and we're going to throw in there an extra 2 months. So that'll give you VSiN for 14 months for less than 50 cents a day. You get with it everything, all the goodies that we've got here at the network. A daily best bet emails from our VSiN show hosts and guests, exclusive betting splits from both Circa and DraftKings, all access to the VSiN Watch app where you're able to watch show replays, everything live, so much more. And we've got advanced analytics. We're going to have an NFL betting guide that's going to be coming out soon as well. To claim this offer, you go to vsin.com/subscribe, type in the promo code of PRO, P-R-O, nice clean 3 letters there, and with those 3 letters, you save $41 and you get 3 months for free over at vsin.com/subscribe, as it is cashing out with myself, Greg Peterson, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And how about if we take a look at a pitcher I think is a little bit underrated, and this team needs a little bit of a slump buster. I'm a man from the great state of Wisconsin, and for the Brewers, it's been a little bit less than savory the last few days. So let's see if they're able to get it here. 9:53, 9:54 on the card. Got the Pittsburgh Pirates playing us the Milwaukee Brewers, as it is Mr. Bailey Falter hoping to not live up to his name for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Logan Henderson goes for the Brewers, and Brewer Crew does find themselves as between minus 123 to minus 130 favorites, plus 110 to plus 115, that number on Pittsburgh. 8 is the total in a lot of spots. I'm starting to see one straight 8.5 out there as well. Should be noted that for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they have scored 4 runs or fewer now, 27 out of their last 29 games. That's not a great run to say the least, and both of those games actually have come in this series, but Logan Henderson, he's another one of these young gun Brewers starters that come up from the AAA Nashville Sounds where they just manufacture pitching. Like, I don't know how they do it. A lot of these guys aren't necessarily strikeout artists. Henderson is. Henderson, in his first 3 starts, 16-plus innings, 23 punch-outs. He has been incredibly impressive. Now, he's given up 2 home runs, so he's been a little bit lucky that those have been solo shots, but I really like this kid's stuff. Like, you've had Chad Patrick come up for the Brewers. He's been able to do a nice job. Tobias Myers was a part of that farm system. He's been able to do a good job. Like, this is just a factory of really good pitching for the Brewers. And on the flip side, Bailey Falter, he has a 3.50 ERA, but I have trust issues with Bailey Falter. He does live up to his name a little bit too much. On a nice little bit of a surge run here, he's given up 0-1 runs in each of his last 3 starts. I believe that this is a flash in the pan. He really doesn't get a lot of swing and miss with about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, gives up 3 walks per 9. Has done a solid job of being able to keep the ball in the yard, but really doesn't do much else. And even if he does give a good start, it's hard to trust in this Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen. David Bednar, you never know what you're going to be able to get out of him. It's a bullpen that is in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've got Colin Holderman now on the injured list after he was doing nothing. I thought Joey Wentz was going to be pretty rock solid for them. He has not been. And then how about if we talk about this Pittsburgh Pirates lineup where it's been about as offensive as Ned Flanders for this team this season, as you've got Oneil Cruz, who's been able to do an okay job of being able to move line. He's up to 10 home runs this season. He's been able to give you about a 360 or so on base. Andrew McCutchen, at 500 years old, has been able to give you about a 360 or so on base as well. And Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he's doing a good job of being able to hit, move the line. He's hitting in that neighborhood about a 280 or so. But in this entire bottom of the lineup, you've got these guys like Alexander Canario, when he's been out there because he's been a little bit banged up. Endy Rodriguez, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo. These guys are all hitting below a 200. You're getting absolutely nothing out of them. You've had Brian Hayes be a big, giant disappointment. And Brian Reynolds, I recognize that he's got 6 home runs, but this guy's right now giving you about a 280 or so with regards to his on base. And for the Brewers, they've got quite a few guys that have done a nice job of getting on base. They just don't necessarily have a lot of power with regards to the home run ball. As right now, your leader is Christian Yelich. This is not the same Christian Yelich that we all know and love. He's hitting right around about a 200. He has just been a shell of himself the last few years, and the injuries have very much taken hold there, but then you've got someone like Rhys Hoskins, who he's down in terms of his power numbers from what you're typically used to seeing with him. Only 7 home runs, but north of 300 on base. Jackson Chourio, he's been able to give you 7 home runs. Would like to see him walk a little bit more. 250 batting average, 275 on base. A little bit of a free swinger, so a little bit of a throwback there. You've got William Contreras, who's been able to give you about a 360 in terms of that on base. And then you do have the guys in the middle infield like Oliver Dunn, Vinny Capra, guys like this that aren't necessarily give you a whole heck of a lot of anything. But I do think that there's some positivity coming for this Brewers bullpen. It has been quite shaky this season, but they bring back darn near everyone from a bullpen that last year was number 1 with regards to ERA, and they just got back Aaron Ashby as well, made his season debut here on Saturday. You've been able to get good production out of Abner Uribe, who's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Do think that the Brewers get a nice start out of Henderson. They get to Bailey Falter. Mostly seeing 8 out there. I would be willing to take a shot on that 8 over, and I do like the Brewers on the money line. We've talked a lot about the National League teams. How about if we take a look at the American League side of things next right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger. Because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We've right now got 2 games going on in Major League Baseball, and for those of you guys that are right now betting the Kyle Schwarber home run props, well, cash another one. He hit a ball that I think had a taxi to catch with how quickly it got out of Sacramento. Currently, it is 4-3. The Philadelphia Phillies are in the lead, top of the 6th inning. That was a closing total of 10, and right now, if you're looking at this game live, you're right now very much in the balance with regards to that total. Right now, the live total is at 11.5 as you've got men on base for the Philadelphia Phillies, so they're looking to make this a big inning. Jeffrey Springs has not really looked comfortable here tonight, and it's been a little bit of a rough go of it in general for our good friend in Mr. Springs, so we'll see what's happening there. And the LA Angels, they've got their 8-game win streak currently on the line, currently down by a count of 3-1 to the Miami Marlins, as Cal Quantrill all of a sudden is pitching halfway decent for the Miami Marlins. I'm not sure where this has come from, but there you go there. And for Jose Soriano, a little bit up, down, all around for him tonight, so we shall see what's going to be happening on that front, as we have talked a lot about the National League games in the previous segment. Now, how about if we do take a look at a little bit more of the American League games? And my wonderful producer, Hunt, was mentioning this to me during the break, because he's a man out there in the Northeast, or in the East Coast, east part of the country. He's talking about how big of a disappointment the Baltimore Orioles are, and that's a great place to start here. 965, 966 on the card. How are we still getting these sort of prices fading the Baltimore Orioles, as Walker Buehler is going to be on the bump for Boston. Dean Kramer goes for Baltimore. This is between minus 125 to minus 135 on the Boston Red Sox. Total on this game is 9.5. How is this still between minus 125 to minus 135? Like, am I just a moron, or am I missing something here? Like, with the Baltimore Orioles, they've got a terrible bullpen. They've got a terrible rotation. They're in the bottom 8 with regards to runs per game away from home. They're doing nothing right. Like, it's not Brandon Hyde who deserved to be fired. It's Mike Elias. They did absolutely nothing in the offseason. Now, here they are winning a third of their games thus far this season, and they're still only getting plus 115 on the road against the Boston Red Sox. A Red Sox team that I recognize. They've left a little bit of something to be desired. If you look at the advanced numbers, if you look at the Pythagorean, everything like that, they should have a little bit of a better record. Walker Buehler came off the injured list in his first start. He looked relatively solid. He's given up 3 runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts, and you got Dean Kramer. Dean Kramer has a 5.50 ERA. This guy has not been trustworthy throughout his entire career. Like, this line should be like minus 170. Like, this line should really be more like minus 170, minus 175 in my opinion. Recognize that the Boston Red Sox bullpen, yeah, you might have Aroldis Chapman poop the bed at the wrong time, because that's what Aroldis Chapman does, but I mean, they're halfway decent. Liam Hendricks has been a little bit, shall we say, shaky. Very good story, the fact that he's back out there on the field. But, I mean, these guys like Brendan Bernardino, Garrett Whitlock and company, pretty rock solid. And both of these teams did have to use up quite a bit of their bullpen in the games on Saturday because they did have a double dip. But I do think that with the Boston Red Sox getting 7 innings out of Lucas Giolito, I did not see that coming. That's going to be able to help them out. And for the Baltimore Orioles, just have had no consistency with this lineup whatsoever. And it's all, shall we say, hinged to the fact that Ellie Rushman, over the last 12 months or so, he's been a very, very average or below average player. Like right now, the guy is hitting .212 this far this season with not a lot of power. Jackson Holliday's been able to pick it up along Gunnar Henderson. Both of these guys hitting right around about a .270, but you don't have a lot of power on this team. Like right now, you've been able to have Cedric Mullins hit 10 home runs after a really good first 3 weeks of the season, though. He has slowed down in terms of being able to move the line. Like they're still giving guys like Eston Kierstead or a Mateo at bats. These guys are hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200. Dylan Carlson quite literally has 1 hit this far this season. He's got a .045 batting average. Yeah, that's something that Greg Peterson could probably do. And then on the flip side for the Boston Red Sox, Rafael Devers has all of a sudden found it. Like they decided to pitch to him in the 10th inning today, which I have no idea why they did that, but I mean, he's been able to give you double-figure amount of homers. Don't ask him to pick up a glove, but you know what? He's picked it up with his bat. You've got Weiler Abreu who's giving you a double-figure amount of homers. Recognize that Alex Bregman is currently on the injured list, but quite a bit of depth with this team. We saw Abraham Toro go deep in the first game on Saturday as well, so that's rock solid. Jaron Duran is starting to give you a little bit more of something. I just don't understand how they make Dean Kramer, who's been awful for multiple years. He's always been the least trustworthy starter for the Baltimore Orioles. How they make him right around about plus 115 against Walker Buehler. Again, I recognize that Walker Buehler is not quite the Walker Buehler of old, but he's starting to get there. He's year number 2 off of major surgery. Typically, that's when a guy starts to come to it his own. Like I said, rough first 2 starts of the season. Ever since then, he's been solid. Swing and miss stuff isn't quite where he's been at with regards to peak form, but I'm going to take a shot here on the Red Sox. I set this more around a minus 170. Being able to get a minus 135, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line, and set my total 9.2. I'm going under just because with the Orioles, they've had a tough time scoring on the road all season long, but where you're having an easy time scoring with is ProfitX, because they know that the playoffs are heating up and they are a partner offering the best in terms of the playoff odds all year long. ProfitX is a peer-to-peer exchange that's available in 40 plus states. You're able to make sports picks against other groups of fans rather than sports books, and exchange is guaranteed that you get the best odds by an average about 10 to 20%. You can even request your own odds. Download ProfitX today. Utilize the promo code of VSIN, VSIN, and that'll score you up to $200 in ProfitX cash over your first month. So download the app and utilize that promo code of VSIN, as it is cashing out with myself, Greg Hughes Peterson, right here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. And how about if we take a look at another interesting game out there in the American League, as right now you got Patrick Corbin as a favorite on the road. You don't find that very often. This is 969, 970 on the card, as it is Corbin and the Rangers on the road against the White Sox. Davis Martin goes for the Southsiders, and right now this total is anywhere between 8 and 8.5, and with the Rangers, anywhere between minus 133 to minus 142, between plus 122, plus 125, that number on the White Sox. And for the Rangers, they actually decided to score some runs on Saturday. Like, you had Bryce Wilson starting, who, I mean, at this point, he's pretty much relegated to being about as useful as a pitching machine for the Chicago White Sox. But you had the Texas Rangers just look all sorts of awful with regards to their bullpen. Very interesting circumstance here, because I'm going to be willing to go in on Patrick Corbin. Now, I do think that there's a bit of regression to be had for Patrick Corbin. Right now, it's a 3.50 ERA. Has given up 3 runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts, but swing and miss stuff is no different than what it was when he was with Washington. He was getting about 6.5 to 7 strikeouts per 9 innings there, up to about 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings here. Additionally, you've got him giving up right around about 3 walks per 9. The difference is he's not really been giving up the deep ball, and for the Chicago White Sox, they really don't have a lot of power on this team. You've been able to have Miguel Vargas be able to give you 6 home runs. Ender Benintendi, he was doing a solid job, but he lands on the injured list. They're just now getting back Mike Tauchman, who's probably going to be one of their better hitters. That should be able to help them out moving forward. And the White Sox coming off of being able to put up a 10 spot in their game on Saturday, but Prior to that, they were edging right around about 3.3 runs per game. Not a lot of guys outside of Lennon Sosa that are moving the line for this team. Meanwhile, for the Texas Rangers, this has been a pretty miserable offense. Like, I've been banking on this team being able to find it a little bit more, and perhaps Saturday gets them going, because you've got the Joshes, Josh Young along Josh Smith, who both been able to hit north of a 275, but I mean, my goodness, with what you're seeing out of this team and Wyatt Langford really being the lone guy to give you power, because right now they're down Corey Seager. Corey Seager being on the injured list certainly does hurt this offense, but Adolis Garcia has really not been able to move the line over the last 12 months in general. You've gotten nothing out of Marcus Semien. You've gotten nothing out of Jock Peterson. Actually, you've gotten less than nothing out of Jock Peterson. Like a league average position player is giving you a whole heck of a lot more than Jock Peterson right now. And when it comes to the Texas Rangers bullpen, hard to have a lot of faith in these guys as well. We saw what happened in the game on Saturday. Now, you've got a few guys like Colby Milner, who's been pretty rock solid aside from yesterday. I do like what I've been seeing out of Robert Garcia. Flip side for the Chicago White Sox, hard to have a lot of faith in these guys either, as you've actually had Mike Vasil be a really good long guy, but they burnt him up for multiple innings on Saturday, so he's not going to be able to come back here on Sunday. These guys like Penn Murphy and Cam Bouger that have been sort of journeyman guys, they've been rough, and Davis Martin just does not give you any swing and miss. Only about 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Not the world's worst player at being able to keep the ball in the yard. That said, I do think that this is a nice bounce back spot here for the Texas Rangers, so I'm going to be willing to dive in on their money line. I set mine at a minus 149, and again, I don't think that Patrick Corbin is going to continue to do what he's doing. Like, ever since he was bit by, as they like to call it, the venomous creature, a lot of people think that it's a spider. They officially called it a venomous creature, so we will go with that. He's been pitching a little bit better. I do think that there's a bit of regression there, but I do think that the Rangers finally give you just a little bit more on offense. So I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that Rangers money line. When it comes to the AL West, I do think that you've got some intrigue with this one as well. This is 973 and 974 on the card. We've got the Astros playing OC Seattle Mariners, as Luis Castillo is on the bump for Seattle, and Mr. Colton Gordon is on the bump for Houston. And right now, with regards to the Astros, you're going to be finding them as a very slight underdog, anywhere between about plus 105, plus 110, minus 120 to minus 125, that number on Seattle. And for the young gun and Gordon, he's made 2 starts thus far, has given up a combined 6 runs across 9 2/3 innings. Not a bad pitcher, not an amazing pitcher, and Luis Castillo is really down with his strikeout stuff. He's only been able to give you 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, yet he's rocking a sub 3.25 ERA. I think that there might be a little bit of regression there. It's a Houston Astros lineup that seems to be coming into their own. You're able to get a multi-home run game out of Jose Altuve to begin the series. You've had Christian Walker be a little bit shaky, but I do think that for the Mariners, team that's averaging about 5.1 runs per game away from them, they get to Colton Gordon in this spot. I think that you get a higher scoring game, so I like the over, and I do like the Seattle Mariners on the money line. What else I love? Talking some hockey, as our good friend Jonathan Davis here at the network. He is amazing on the ice, and he's joining me next right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.